U.S. and Israel have been hammering Iran with deadly airstrikes for over 2 weeks now, and some gamblers are making big profits from it. On the online platform Polymarket, a handful of gamblers made hundreds of thousands of dollars betting that the U.S. would strike Iran by Saturday, February 28th. Most of those wagers were placed in the hours before the first bombs fell. Many of the accounts only created days earlier. And it's not the first time online gamblers have profited in this way. In January, one user made $400,000 just hours after placing a correct bet on when the U.S. would capture Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. And it's raising questions about whether the users had extremely lucky timing or insider information.
Government insiders are using your tax dollars to fund wars, which they then gamble on using insider information to make massive profits while bombs fall.
The controversy has also drawn attention to prediction markets' political connections. Donald Trump Jr. is a major investor in Polymarket, a strategic advisor to Kalshi, another betting site, and the director of an upcoming expansion to the Truth Social universe, Truth Predict. For more on this, let's bring in Alex Goldenberg. He's a fellow at Rutgers University's Miller Center and has written about war markets. He is in Charleston, South Carolina this morning. Thanks so much for talking to us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So for many of our viewers, this may be a world they are just not familiar with. So can you first explain what exactly a prediction market is and how is it different from other online betting sites?
Sure. Think of prediction markets like a stock market, but instead of buying shares in Apple or Google, you're buying a contract on whether something will happen. These contracts are typically priced between $0 and $1. Zero meaning there's no chance that something will happen. $1 means near certainty. So if something is trading at 17 cents, for example, the market is saying there's a 17% chance that the thing you are betting on happens. When the markets are liquid enough, they actually tend to be genuinely predictive, more accurate than polls in theory because people have skin in the game. They're more accurate than polls in the lead up to the 2024 U.S. presidential election. They recently accurately called, better than most polls and surveys, the recent Texas primary winner. Now, how are they different from regular betting? Well, right now there's a legislative battle between states and the federal government in various states across the country that are, arguing that this is betting. But on the surface, it's not that different. You're wagering money on an outcome. But sports betting is entertainment. No one treats the Vegas line or the Atlantic City line for, my listeners in New Jersey on the Eagles game as a geopolitical, intelligence outcome. Prediction markets are being sold as forecasting infrastructure. And the argument is that these financial incentives force honesty, so the price becomes a more reliable signal than an analyst's estimate or an official statement. So there's also a structural difference between regular betting and these event contracts. When you're betting on sports, you're betting on athletic performance. In these prediction markets, you can bet on whether a country will be invaded, whether a leader will be assassinated, whether a nuclear weapon will detonate, which was a recent event contract on Polymarket, or even what Prime Minister Carney says during his next press conference.
A lot of people may be shocked to hear what people are betting on because we know, as you mentioned, a lot of it can often be benign. Sports betting, the Oscars are tonight. People may be betting on who's going to win the Oscar for Best Picture, Best Actor. But betting on geopolitical events, can you walk us through what more are the worries and concerns when it comes to that specifically?
Sure. I mean, as you mentioned earlier, there were, what seemed to be insiders trading on insider information just moments before the strikes in late February on Iran. There were at least 6 newly created anonymous crypto wallets that made, roughly $1.2 million by correctly betting on the strikes, placing those bets moments before the attack. The accounts had been funded within the last 24 hours and had never placed any other bets, which to me is a signature of potential insider trading. One trader that has created quite a stir wagered $32,000 when the odds were at 17% chance of strikes that day, which is a high conviction, low probability bet, meaning someone's betting a lot of money on something that, based on publicly available information, was not likely to happen. And he was proven right when the explosions hit in Tehran just hours later. Now, in both War on the Rocks, which is a war journal, and the Wall Street Journal last week, I highlighted, along with my colleague Max Meislish, 3 national security problems that are a byproduct of these geopolitical war markets. The first one being signal intelligence leak. There was a recent paper, months ago, written by the U.S. Army's Military Intelligence Professional Bulletin that, is kind of framing prediction market signals as a valuable intelligence source. We have the former SEC commissioner warning that these signals could put our own military at risk, because if insiders are moving markets moments before a strike happens, our adversaries can watch this and potentially launch a preemptive strike. Or, I know Ayatollah Khamenei on Saturday morning, the morning of the strikes, met above ground. Maybe if he saw these signals, he would, change his kind of pattern of life. The second issue that I raised is that we're introducing a new financial incentive for corruption. When these markets exist and are being watched, they introduce a financial structure into what should be purely strategic decision making. Now we have decision makers with this new incentive structure that may change their decision making processes because negotiating a ceasefire today instead of tomorrow may be more financially beneficial to that decision maker. We haven't seen any evidence of this happening now, but the markets are structured, especially Polymarket, are structured in such a way, where the collateral is in cryptocurrency, that it'll be very difficult to ascertain whether or not this is happening. And then the third national security problem that worries me is that foreign adversaries, can place large wagers on low probability events to generate headlines and fuel panic. Think of, Chinese intelligence agencies, because they want to measure our response, betting $100,000 through anonymous wallets that Taiwan will be, invaded by the end of 2026. Adversaries could easily do that. And right now we would have to actually pay close attention to that and ascertain, is this an insider who knows something? Is this a gambler, or is this a state trying to measure, allied forces, response?
A lot of food for thought there, Alex, and really does raise questions about whether things should be regulated a little bit more. And I know we're going to have a lot of conversation about this, not just today, but in the future looking ahead. Alex Goldenberg, I want to thank you so much for your time and for your insight, fellow at Rutgers University's Miller Center.
Thank you for having me.